Hello, it's time to cook. Today going to be slightly experimental. We're trying to make this Chinese meat pie thing, and I already rolled myself a dough. It's resting. Um, I don't know how to roll dough very well, so I'm not going to, or I didn't record it because I'm sure it'll be pretty bad. And essentially, mix some flour with water, and you move it around, and hopefully it's not too runny or too sandy, kind of a deal. But anyway, for this you need some ground meat. I have pork. You need pork. I think is good because it's very fat. So whatever you do, make sure it has a lot of fat. This is no more than 20% fat, which may be even too thin. So make sure you have a lot of fat, and you need something aromatic and preferably vegetable. So these are some Chinese leek, I believe. Or if you don't have it, you can use some other vegetable and you chop them into small pieces. But if that be the case, you want to supplement it with some vegetable that do have a strong flavor. So some cilantro or green onion or the like. But I'll still use some. But for most of these, I think these leeks should suffice. I would not recommend American or the normal huge leeks you find in the supermarket because they are too tough, and you want them to be slightly tender so that they'll cook. Actually, why don't we start with the meat first? So the idea is you take meat. Can we see? Let's see. Let me fix. Okay, good. And you put some. Try to imagine what it'll fit in the end, right? I'm trying to balance out these vegetables with these meats, so ideally you want half and half. Too much vegetable, then it's really boring tasting, but too much meat is too greasy or too meaty, right? You want kind of a half and half thing, which is probably the best. So we use half of this, which probably go well with that, and we can use these rest of the ground pork for some other projects. Okay, so with pork, what you gotta do is pork is actually very grainy and dry, at least the ground version. So you want to add some oil to it, I think, like a little bit. If you have sesame oil, that's even better because they're more tasty. See, I have some. This is premium grade sesame oil. And a fair bit of salt. So you want this to be fairly salty because just remember this is a filling for a pie, a meat pie of some sort. So whatever flavor you put in here, the saltiness, it needs to cover both the meat, the vegetables, and the dough, right? Which is not salted. So you want this to be fairly strong. And what we're doing is we're rotating it in a single direction, right? Going one way only. I think it's if you're making a meatball, as in a soup, you add water to make it into this very silky smooth texture. But we're going to add this leek inside. So I think it's best not to add water because who knows, this leek might be actually very runny. So the reason with leek is nice because they're already in nice strings. So just by chopping it near the end, you're guaranteed these very fine pieces. So this is what we'll do. We'll quickly chop them. So in chopping vegetable, I find the best advice I can give is be very tentative with your fingers. You want to arrange the vegetable into the right orientation to cut, but you need to be very firm with your knife. So the knife will cut down and it just got to go. It doesn't care if the vegetable is arranged or you don't want to change the direction of the knife when you're cutting. So when you're cutting, you want to be very direct, and you just go straight down. And whatever horrible mangled up position your vegetable end up being, it's their fault, and they will just get chopped in that horrible mangled up position. Okay. It's hard for me to navigate. There's a freaking phone in my in my face. Okay, chop chop. Almost. Gets easier and easier with the leek. The leafy part become more supple the more near the end it is. So alright, fantastic. And we'll put them all in here. I like mixing this filling with a straight edged pot rather than a curvy edged bowl. What do we mean by that? Well, I mean the pot has a bottom and it goes up straight on the edge. It's a 90-degree angle between the two, and I really like that because when you mix, you can really have your mixing tool on the side of it and touching it. If it's a round bowl shape, it tends to slide around and it doesn't work nearly as nice. So now with these leeks, you want to be just mixing them in, but you don't want to go crazy with the stirring and it destroys their leaves too much, because the leeks actually tend to smell quite strong if their the structure is destroyed too much, but they're quite fragrant if you just stir it very lightly. So you don't want to over stir these leeks. And we'll have some green onion. I contemplated about cilantro, but I think we should do without cilantro because the leek has already its own flavor, which is that more close to green onion. So it's best we just let it be instead of introducing another flavor, which is the cilantro. For large part, cooking is about subtractive process, about think about what you can get away with not adding, rather than try to be additive and add everything. That's kind of what make a dish memorable, right? It has a distinct point to it. This dish only has this one few things, and it, when put together, it's fantastic. That's what makes you remember a dish, right? When you have some dish that's so complicated, has so many different ingredients to it, it's less memorable because you don't really recall what's so special about it, right? So if I can only get away with just pork and some leek and it tastes amazing, you would say, there's this one time I had this really simple dish, it's only pork and leek and it's amazing. So that's why we always try to do subtraction while cooking and think about what can you go without, okay? So it smells really nice, and I don't know how salty it is, so I think I need more salt. It's totally okay to taste it, even if it's raw. It's more important to have a good idea what these things taste like before you commit into actually making them. And this is new for me. I haven't made stuff like this before. So whenever you're making something new, it's always a good idea to taste, because you have no other feedback. And your tongue is your best guidance in these scenarios. So, okay, so to recap, it's ground pork, some leek, some green onion, salt, and a fair amount of sesame oil, or normal oil if you don't have sesame oil. Okay, so we'll let this be for now. Get out my other board for processing flour. Okay, so I've been resting this dough for about 5-10 minutes, I think is good. I'm not an expert on dough, so I won't pretend to know what I'm doing. But I think the general gist is you have some flour, and then you let's try to make 2. So we'll separate the dough into 2 pieces. So as I said, this is going to be a meat pie. Okay. So there's some chunks in this. It's not entirely smooth. So what we want to do is we'll make a flat sheet out of this dough. Get my trusty roller. You don't need the roller to be this big. This is a roller you would use to beat up your wife or kid if you're a evil bastard. But I just like this. I mean, come on, how could you not buy this? It's so big. It's very imposing. So I bought it mainly just for the lows because it was so unwieldingly large. So what you want to do is roll into a flat disc as thin as you can manage and as round as possible. Okay. Now disclaimer, I actually never made this before. So there may be mistakes here and there, but it's okay because as we said, this is for science. Okay, this is for great experiments. So let's just roll these out. Okay, I think it's fairly thin now. Let's see if we can make it even thinner. Okay, so now what my mom tells me is, or what she told me and I inferred, is you have a circle. You want to divide it into 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3, like a Mercedes. And what you want to do is you want to cut. Where's my knife? You want to cut 1/3 this way. But first, let's try to put the filling onto the other 2/3. Let's use half. Okay, so remember where the third is. You want a nice layer of filling on all the other part of it. So around, don't push too much into the edge, right? Otherwise it's going to be troublesome to make it contained on the inside. And just doesn't need to be too precise. I think that's probably my favorite part about cooking. It doesn't need to be to the point exactly, unless you're Japanese and make some highly technical food. Okay, let's try your best to spread them. While we're at it, let's already heat the pan with some oil on the inside over medium, just so that we can have a nice workflow going. It's called pipelining. It's more like prefetching, I guess. Anyway. Okay. So don't make them touch the edge. Once they touch the edge, it's actually troublesome because this thing is really greasy and it's hard to close off a section once they become greasy. Okay, as you can see, we covered 2/3 of the pie with stuffing. Okay, and now we'll make our cut here. So I think it's important to leave some margin, either this way or this way. So we're going to cut this way, and we're going to leave a fair bit of margin on this side. So the big idea here is you want to fold a double-layered hamburger style. So watch me. So I will fold the first layer this way. really try to make sure it's symmetrical, right? You want to cover at least half of it. And then you want to pinch in the end. Make sure the end goes well together. Give it a nice, make sure it's nice and even. Everything is very nice and soft, so you don't need to worry too much about it breaking. They would happily deform slightly for you. Okay, so I folded the first half. Can you see? Now I will fold the second half this way. There we go. And now I want to make sure that these ends are nicely covered. Make sure they don't leak, and then we'll just gently press it to make it nice and flat. Make sure this end is sealed. So on the inside we have a double-decker meat pie with dough, meat, dough, meat, dough. Right, we can cut it this way. And the idea is that the dough in the middle will be a very delicious treat because it will have all the nice juice from the meat on both sides. Alright, now go back to the pan view. We have heated this over medium, so what we'll do, we'll simply drop this in, shake it to make sure it's evenly coated with grease, and leave it on low, I think, and cover. And now we wait. Okay, I think it will probably cook 5 to 10 minutes per side, and then we'll come back with a flip and a finish. So I will cut for now. I'm back. It's been 7 minutes. I think the one side of it is nearly cooked, so it's important to cover so the meat on the inside actually cooked, right? So now we'll try to flip it. Flipping is actually easy. You just need to commit. Watch. 1, 2, 3, go. See? So I think I made it a bit too big and the edge is actually slightly bendy in the wrong direction. So once I flipped it, it's hard to get it to reorient itself into a other kind of bendiness. So it looks great, doesn't it? So we will, I'm not sure if we should cover, but on the safe side, let's cover it for another 10 minutes or so, or 5 minutes. It's no real danger of overcooking these things, really. It's not supposed to be a fresh, kind of a taste. So, but yeah, I'll check back in a bit. Ooh, look at that. It's been, I think 5 more minutes or so. I think it's good to eat. I'll get a plate. Put it on a plate. Think it'll fit. Yeah, but let me show you. In the meantime, I made another one. Looks slightly more crappy than the last one because the flour ran out and it was getting sticky on the board. Alright, turn off the heat. And off you go. Look at this majesty. Well, there's no way to know if it's really legitimate until we actually cut into it. So that's what we'll do. I think for a pie this size, fairly safe to cut it in half, and we can stack it up and take a picture. So to recap on the cooking, it's important to cap the pan so that it retains the heat, retain all the hot air inside the pan so it will cook. If you don't cover, very often you will have a burnt bottom and a raw inside, and that's the worst. Okay, so we'll put this on top here. Give a sneak peek to the side. You see, many layers, all very delicious, greasy looking inside and crunchy outside. Just like a fried chicken, without the chicken, nor any of the other part. Okay, that's it for now. Bye bye.